Okay, we're live.
We're live. We are live. Oh my gosh, we're live. Ruth, it's the Ruth and Cory show. We're live. Can you believe it?
I can't believe it. And this is our first session that we're doing, Cory. I'm just so excited today. I am actually honored that you would do this with me. And so thank you.
Likewise. I've been looking forward to this for a long time because we've been talking about this now for at least 3 or 4 months.
Yes. We've been keeping it to ourselves, seeing if it's something we really want to do.
Right. Coming up with our logo, coming up with our saying, our mission statements. What is it we really want to talk to? Who do we want to reach? And all of that will be revealed here shortly.
Yes. And, I think some of the biggest challenges we've had is our themes, because the world of spirituality is so broad. It's like there's so many avenues that we could start off with, and so many topics in this world.
Yeah. Oh, so you're spiritual. Okay. That's like saying you drive a car. Really? What kind of car?
Yeah.
What make? What model?
Yeah. How much?
What kind of tires do you have? Right. Yeah, you're right. There's so many different areas. And the really cool thing about it is that, and what I've been finding too, as we've been going through the development of this, the whole process is you don't really have to worry about it because it comes to you. You can let the ego take over. You can stress about it and be like, oh my gosh, what are we going to talk about? Who are we going to reach? Well, we want to talk about everything and reach everybody. Yeah, you're just putting a whole lot of burden on yourself. So like doing something like this, mini spiritual retreat, like I'm doing at this Airbnb, gives you time to just unwind, think without the regular distractions of your household life, the cats, the dog, the kid, the wife, the whatever, and not, honey, I love you, but sometimes you're a distraction.
And that's how it is with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Jobs can be a distraction. Paying the bills is a distraction in today's world.
It is. Yeah. Taxes and all that stuff. Yeah. But yeah, to get away like this and then just let the energy flow, let it speak. And then and look at that. There's my phone. Hold on just a second. Hi, Sonia. Hello, Sonia. Oh, hey, Sophie. It's Sophie. You know what? Hey, guess what I'm doing right now? Oh, do you have it on video?
Yeah.
There you go. See, look.
Hi, Sophie. This is our first podcast together.
Sophie, you're on our first podcast right now. You're famous.
Oh.
So say hello to everyone.
Go ahead. Say hello to everyone, Soph.
There we go.
All right. Can I call you back in a little bit?
Yeah, what about setting up my phone?
Okay. I'll talk to you later.
Love you, bye.
Love you, bye.
That's awesome. How old is she, Cory?
Oh, she's 15.
Oh, she must keep you busy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, number 4. So not my first rodeo, but yeah, I do understand why God gives children to young people. At 55, having a 15-year-old is like, oh my God. Yeah, anyway, it does keep me young. So anyway, back to what we were talking about. The allowing, and this is actually a really good point and something that we can both probably speak to, is it is super important that I've been finding super important that you take care of yourself. And how you do that, you can do it in many different ways. And for me, I kid you not, I must have had 8 messages saying, get away, go get away. Whether it was through oracle cards, whether it was through intuitives, whether it was through meditation, 8 times Spirit said, get away. And so I did this weekend and not disappointed at all. And like, I haven't gotten a whole bunch of like revelation and downloads or anything like that. but oh my gosh, my mind and body just needed it.
And
Get
it's
away from,
interesting because the revelation might kick in later, because
Sure.
now our bodies will be prepared to receive it.
Good point. Good point.
I've noticed
But
that.
it is, and I know that you do the same thing on occasion. You just get away, and it's super important for us as healthy human beings to, I mean, that's just one of the ways to take care of yourself. You know, some people go for a run, which is great. Some people will do yoga. Some people will go for a bike ride. Some people will go for a walk, and those are like daily things that you can do. But on occasion, you really need to take the big jump and just go away. Go away.
Yes. Somebody once told me, I don't know if I read it in a book somewhere, but it stuck with me. I think it was at an event I went to for an inspirational speaker, and they said that you create an energy field with your home, your friends, your people. And sometimes when you try to get inspiration or you try to remove blocks from your life, you're trapped in that energy field around, you know, your block, your city block, your workspace. And there's actually sometimes even targeted energy. You could call them psychic attacks trying to block you. You could call them your own programming, your shadow, your fears, our fears. And they say you have to get out of that energy bubble that you created around you, because it's like a self-made block. It's like almost that self-sabotage. And then you go out, you get realigned, then you come back in and you can see clarity to see, okay, this is not aligned. This is not aligned. And then I need to move forward in this direction. And so that concept of an energy bubble round about us, creating a field that we live in every day, and we needing to separate from that, really stuck to me. And I think is why I try to get away at least once or twice a month, once every 2 months at least.
Oh, that's really good. I'm glad to hear that you've got a schedule. I do not have that, which is a good point. I really should. I tend to pack my weekends, not necessarily with individual things, but no, let's just say my weekends tend to get packed. I think that's a better way of putting it. Just with, mainly with family stuff.
Yeah. That's understandable. That is.
It wears down on you. It really wears you down.
Yeah.
So it is important. It's important to do stuff like this and to get away and wait for the inspiration. Don't rush it. And, like we were saying, going back to what we were talking about with just, what were we trying to do with this podcast, right? You and I both were able to, we're both wise enough to, not stress it, not rush it, and just be like, okay, when the timing's right, the inspiration will come, and like, so we had a couple meetings, and, say you and I've never worked together before, but we had a couple meetings and we had some task items that we were each supposed to accomplish. And I was like, okay, well, I've never worked with Ruth before. I don't know how she's going to react to like suspense dates. And you were supposed to get this done. And why didn't you do that? No, you wouldn't. I know you wouldn't do that. Might think it. I know you wouldn't say that. But I was really impressed with the grace that you came through with when you said it perfectly. And it's exactly what I was thinking. It was like, when the time's right. I was like, oh, awesome. Okay, this is going to work just fine. So, I really appreciated that. That was very cool. So this is still a work in progress. We are just kicking this off right now, and we're doing this as a practice, but we might even publish it. Who knows? Just depends on how well the content goes, and we'll see what happens. So, you're my guest today, Ruth, on the Ruth and Cory show. And I know as we got on here, I told you what I was going to talk about. I wanted to talk about the book you wrote.
Yeah.
Now, I don't have a hard copy of it. I did get it on Kindle and I read through it. But would you want to hold it up and show the folks what it's called? So, Spiritual Technologies in the Bible. And what does it say? Reclaiming
spiritual sovereignty for humanity.
There we go. Reclaiming spiritual sovereignty for humanity. Now, I have to tell you this. So, I was out for about an hour today, and I was listening to Next Level Soul podcast with Alex Ferrari. And the interviewee, I don't remember her name, I have to go back and look, talked about the same thing. So you want to know where I got my idea from for today?
That took me by surprise.
They had a fascinating conversation about Yeshua ben Joseph and what the Bible really says, and how there are little bits and pieces, things that are hidden in there that really, really heavily suggest that Jesus was married to Mary Magdalene. And so anyway, and it did remind me of your book. It was a couple months ago that I read it, so it's not real fresh in my mind, but it was fascinating, absolutely fascinating. One of the, and I'm going to get into it with you here in just a second, but I remember one of the big things that really stuck with me, and I'm pretty sure you might have to correct me on this, but I'm pretty sure it was the return of the city of Jerusalem, and how the walls were created out of crystals and stones, and precious stones, what we would consider precious stones. If I'm not mistaken, there were 7 types. I think maybe
there
not.
were 12.
12,
I
right.
think there were 12 layers. Well,
Okay.
excuse me. There's several foundations.
Right. Maybe that's what it was.
They were laid for the 12 apostles, but then there were other stones that filled up the walls, the gates were made of pearl.
Yeah.
It's very interesting because I have here an organite pyramid, which actually represents like the jasper. The walls are made of jasper, and the gates were made of pearl, and every like gemstone creates an energy like jasper. Walls, it didn't occur to me that jasper is the stone of protection, and it guards you, and it would be that the realm of black obsidian or black tourmaline and those darker stones. Yeah.
That was pretty cool. That was really cool. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to see if there was like maybe 2 or 3 themes in your book that you feel were most pertinent, or maybe just the most fun to research, or just what were some of the highlights of your book that if you had to strike up a conversation with somebody like, I'm Ruth, I wrote this book and here's what it's about.
Yes.
What would be some of like 2 or 3 of your main themes that just really resonated with you as you were writing it?
So I wrote the book actually because I became a tarot reader, and my psyche freaked out because I was raised that tarot is basically demonic. It's taboo. It's witchcraft, divination. And so I actually had messages coming to me out of the blue that taught me about how tarot cards like this, oracle cards, are actually, the actual tarot deck messages. And I began to get, I believe it was an angelic revelation from my higher self, and possibly ancient wisdom from the past, that shared how tarot was actually the biblical casting of lots. And my mind just kept blowing open and open again and again. And so I had a lot of fun because in my mind, I had to come up with a reason why I was a tarot reader that still believed in the Bible. Like that to me was 2 different things. So I think I collected a lot of the information personally, and then I put it into a book because maybe I didn't quite have my voice yet,
Okay. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. And I'm going to switch spots here.
Okay.
Because that was very uncomfortable. Okay.
But yeah, I just felt like I didn't know how to express myself. So I just began researching it in the Bible. But even then, I believe that the scriptures came to me.
Okay.
So for example, my favorite story is in the book of Joshua, when the leader Joshua he leads them, and the walls of Jericho fall down, and they begin taking their promised land. And you know how they surround them, and they walk around them for 7 days, and then they shout, which is frequency, by the way. They created a frequency, and the walls fell down, destroyed them. But anyway, after that, the leader Joshua goes against a smaller city called Ai, and 36 of their men get killed. And they said, what happened? Why did we have this is so interesting, Cory, because you're gonna love this. They had one frequency with Jericho, but during that, a man had stolen gold and silver and lied about it, and he buried it under his tent, and it was a precious garment. So now there's a frequency, a vibration of deception, greed, which changed the frequency of the children of Israel as a whole, as a collective. So now they're going into the next city that they want to conquer, and they want to take as the promised land. And they actually, because their frequency is lower, 36 men die, and they end up running out of the city. And so Joshua's crying. He goes into the tabernacle, falls down on his face before the Lord, and he says, what happened? And he hears from the Spirit, he hears, get up off the ground, and tomorrow morning gather all the tribes of Israel together and go cast lots. And the lots will tell you which tribe. So it read the energy of the tribe. And then he said, tell you what group of families in that tribe. So it read like the generation. And so it picked up the energy of that generation. And then it says, and then it'll tell you the family, and then it'll tell you the man. And it fell to an exact man. Casting of lots fell to an exact man and said, this is the man whose vibration is ruining the entire vibration of all the nation of Israel. And when I saw that, and that opened my eyes, I was just like, that began the basis of my tarot reading, where it's not so much a prediction, but it reads the energy. It can pick up on the vibrations. And then obviously I began researching the next thing would probably be the vibration and the frequency and how everything vibrates. And so the metaphysical part was really interesting, how everything produces a vibration.
I'm moving again. Yes. Sorry about that. I've got to find somewhere that's going to be conducive. Oh, did I say that out loud? We just beep that out. Okay. I think that's better. Oh, man.
Go.
That second spot I just went to, the air conditioner kicked on, and it was just loud as hell in my ear.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear anything.
I had to move. So I'm sorry. So I totally interrupted you there, but yes, I remember the story about the walls of Jericho and then the walls of Ai, and that there was deception, and it had to do with greed and the casting of lots to find out who it was. Absolutely right. That was actually a pretty fascinating part. I do remember that. And again, interestingly enough, I was just, a couple days ago, I was real busy at work. And so I decided to go on the internet and just look up divining. And I wanted to get some, just wanted to research it, I want to read it a little bit. And it's interesting to find that Deuteronomy 18 says that you shall not seek out the wisdom of oracles, seers. No, you will not divine. You will not da 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 da. And I was like, okay, that's okay. And I'm reading that. I think I Google searched, what does the Bible say about divining or something like that. Deuteronomy 18 came up. I was like, well, that's curious. That's really curious. I said, so then I started looking up, what does the Bible say about casting of lots? And I looked that up. And I went to a lot of, and I did this on purpose. I mean, I went to several sites that were Christian based, because I wanted to see what Christians believed about the casting of lots. And the definition of divination, according to some of these other websites that I've on, is basically giving up control and asking spirit for an answer. So, okay, we don't know what it is. We need you to tell us, and we need a methodology for that message to come through. So we're going to ask for divine intervention, divine guidance, whatever. And it was done in, multiple different ways. sometimes through seers, sometimes through oracles, sometimes through but the casting of lots, each of the sites that were Christian based that I went to would say there's not a whole lot of information on the casting of lots. We really don't know exactly what it is, what the rules were, or anything like that. All that they did know was that when there was a question, they would leave it up to God and cast lots for his answer. And I'm thinking to myself,
That's divination.
what? and again, I was just like,
It's like a big circle.
And
circular reasoning where they just shut down and then they end up in the same place.
Yeah, it's like being blind to what's right in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
The casting of lots is divination. So the very last time that the casting of lots is used is in Acts 2, I think.
It would be around there, yes.
Yeah. So I think it was Peter,
mm-hmm.
and they were trying to find a replacement for Judas.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Christian-based websites that I went to, and don't get me wrong, I am not bashing on Christians because I am one. For one thing, I still consider myself a Christian, just not as programmed. Okay, I think that's as far as I'm going to go with that.
Okay.
So yeah, they were casting lots to find a replacement for Judas, and it was done. So these Christian-based websites were saying, well, yeah, divination was actually used throughout the Old Testament and into the New Testament. And I'm like, so as I'm reading this, I'm thinking Deuteronomy 18, Old Testament, Deuteronomy 18, don't do any of that stuff. Yet here we are seeing them doing it all the way up through Acts 2, I think. But the sites were saying, okay, so after they found the replacement for Judas, which was Matthias, I believe, that right after that is when the apostles received the Holy Spirit. And so the argument was, well, we don't need to use divination anymore because now we've got the Holy Spirit. We can talk to God directly. And I'm thinking, you always had it.
They always had it.
How many examples in the Bible of people being led by the Spirit, and how many times did David talk directly to God?
Directly.
Oh, it's just it's right in front of their faces, but they don't want to admit it. They don't want to see it.
Can I speak to Deuteronomy?
Please.
So this is another fascinating thing that I really, really appreciated in my book. And it was fun researching, and I can truly say it came to me. It's under the chapter Divination, Spiritual or Demonic. That was the title chapter. And it talks about how when Moses was receiving all the rules, including Deuteronomy, from God, he went up into a mountain and received it directly from God. He was an oracle. He was the definition of what we would call an oracle, received messages from God and gave them to people.
Yep.
Okay, so why did he give a message, don't receive from oracles, when he was an oracle? And one of the things that Spirit showed me was that the reason why those messages were given is because when Moses came down from the mountain as an oracle from God, he came down and the people said to him very specifically, we don't want to talk to God. You talk to God for us and we'll just listen to you. From that point on, they were rejecting a personal one-on-one communication with Creator. Okay, they established him as the only oracle they wanted to follow. So what would happen is if they chose to use casting of lots, if they chose to go to another oracle other than Moses from a nation who worshiped false gods, they gave their children to Moloch, they did a lot of demonic practices. If they went and did any kind of divination without a direct connection to Creator, it would put them at the mercy of demonic spirits. If we can be completely honest, they rejected an inner light communication. They said, God can't speak to us. You speak to us, Moses. They gave up their spiritual sovereignty. And if we give up our spiritual sovereignty, we had better not use any kind of divination, because we're going to connect into something that's not for our best and highest good.
Fascinating. Yes,
so that's what God showed me.
That's incredible, because that's exactly what I heard on that podcast today too. It's in fact,
Wow.
sin. This is what she defined sin as, making a decision in the state of separation. So in other words, from the ego mind, that's what she said sin was. And then the other part was what you were just saying.
They refuse their spiritual sovereignty.
Right. It was basically that you give up your spiritual sovereignty. And that's when you can, if you give up your spiritual sovereignty, or if you have not established your spiritual sovereignty, you have there is the possibility that you attract entities. And again, she really was kind of very careful not to say bad, evil, anything like that. They were just lower vibration. And they were attracted to people who had established their separation, who were angry, who were depressed, who were, just not happy people, gossips, and all the things that the Bible says you shouldn't be. But those entities were attracted to those types of people because they feed off that energy.
And I would like to clarify concerning what I said. It's not always an evil entity. Sometimes it's just our ego. It's what we want to happen. So if I want, for example, let's say I want to buy a certain house. And so I go ahead and just start pulling tarot cards. Is it for my best and highest good to have this house? And I don't set an intention, clear my vibration, and connect to my inner peace, my inner light, which is the name of what connecting to our inner light. That's the name and the mantra of this podcast that we're doing together. If we're not connecting to our inner light, I literally picked up the cards in a state of excitement. I want this house. So my ego can very well channel information and interpret information, because I didn't get into a place of stillness, calmness, and say only what's for my best and highest good. That's for protection. Yeah, so that's a very good point.
I want to go off topic just a little bit here, because you bring up a good point. Now, you've got a very specific ritual that you do before you do any kind of divination on your own, and I've got a different one than you do. Talk about yours for just a second. What is it that you do in order to get yourself in a place to be prepared to receive accurate spiritual messages from the highest realms of love and light?
So I do two different types of rituals. If I'm doing a one-on-one, well, even before that, if I do it online. Now, if we're out having fun, I normally do the first prayer protection. So when I say having fun, I'm saying when I'm with friends, we want to pull cards on world events, or we want to ask, or we just meet one-on-one in a restaurant. I will bring with me it's like a token, and this is my token with spirit and my spirit team to say, this is only comes with me with the intention that I'm only accessing information for both of our highest good. And then I'll say a prayer of light where I set that intention. Now, when I channel online, for example, my world news video, I actually will not receive any messages. I will not sit down here at this station until I spend at least 10 to 15 minutes in a meditation, cutting out all thought, all communication. And I actually hope to release this meditation, but it's an inner light meditation that I learned from different people, expands my intuitional psychic space without thought, without ego. And then I'll ask for the presence of the great I am. That's my signature, for the presence of the great I am that I am. And it sets my vibration. Yeah. Okay.
And you just finished that statement off with exactly where I was hoping we would go with it too. It's about your vibration. So I read, I did a course through Sonia Crochet. Are you familiar with her.
I've heard the name.
Okay, she's on YouTube and she does a lot of
Is she the one
she
that
does
does Connecting with Your Guides?
yes, that's
I've
the
heard
one. In fact, I've got her oracle card deck. I love it. So she says in this course that I took from her, which is a really good course and fairly inexpensive in my opinion, but Connecting with Your Guides, and she goes over some rituals. She's, talks about setting up altars and all this other stuff. And she said, there is no right or wrong when you're doing this, because the whole idea of ritual, and this is where I go to, like, the churches and different religions for their rituals, which I actually don't disagree with, because the ritual is supposed to help you get into a state of higher vibration.
Yes.
That's what your ritual does. And whatever ritual resonates with you is the one you should use. So if before you meditate, if you have an altar set up with photos of passed away grandparents or friends, or maybe there's a statue of Jesus or Buddha or whoever, and you have offerings, like my altar, I just set one up because I thought it was kind of fun. I have hundreds of stones, like some I've polished myself, some of them I purchased, but I love crystals. I love rocks. And so I put those on the altar for two reasons. One, as an offering, like I want to share this beauty with you. And two, because each one of those stones or minerals or crystals has a particular value in terms of its frequency and vibration. It has different function. So that resonates with me. So that's kind of my ritual for meditation. However, when we talk about the ritual, or what we go through before we divine, either one of us, your ritual, you explained it very well, and I loved it. Got you into the vibrational state that you want. Before I do a sound bath, or before I do anything, or if I'm just feeling it, what I do, with my intention, I imagine a bubble of golden white light around me that only love and the highest realms of love and light can penetrate. And the beings that come in have to be of pure intention. Okay. So I don't like say all this every single time. It's already a concept. It's my intention. This will happen. So I don't have to sit there and say it, in my head. But then that bubble expands out to where I need that protection boundary to. So if I'm in a classroom doing a sound bath, it extends or expands all the way out around the classroom. And so I hold space for the people that are in there. If I'm doing a meditation in my house, I'll encompass myself, then the room, then my house. And again, it's just the intention. So that's what gets me into that vibrational state where that I know I'm protected.
Right.
I know I'm connected, and I know I'm comfortable.
Yes.
And yes. So bringing that all back around too, also, I just, one point to both of those is that it's more than anything, it's about your intention.
Yes.
Your intention is what sets it all up in the first place. So my point for bringing this all up is I wanted the listeners and the audience to know that if you're, you hear all these different ways to, raise your vibration, or do this ritual, or do this prayer, say this mantra. They're not right. They're not wrong. What resonates with you? What makes sense to you? Whatever that is, grab it. Grab it and use it.
That's your spiritual sovereignty.
There you go.
You can't accept it from someone else because it might work for them, but
That's right.
you have to know what works for you. And this is for another time, but I have had connections with mischievous spirits that lied to me. I have some crazy stories. But when you do something and you're unprotected, it's okay. Because now you know what that feels like. You can recognize that vibration, say, oh, next time I'm going to sure enough make sure I set my intention. And It strengthens your ability to properly divine.
Yeah. And you do it in a way that resonates with you.
It's like, oh, this
Right?
worked.
Yeah.
This didn't
Yeah,
work.
it worked. That's right. And you know what? In fact, I'll even say that about this podcast. If it doesn't resonate with you, find one that does.
Yes.
For goodness sakes, don't sit here and watch this if it's not doing anything for you. Maybe
Yes.
come back later and see if it will. But if it's not making sense to you now, don't sit here and waste your time. I mean, I don't mean it, I don't mean it that way. By all means, continue
And
to
don't
watch.
think that just because we don't mention your ritual audience, that, friends out there, just because Cory and I haven't mentioned your ritual doesn't mean that that's not the perfect one for you.
Excellent point.
Yeah.
Excellent point. Yeah.
Definitely.
And I think in a lot of ways, especially for folks who are new to the spiritual and just waking up, still, and in fact, I'm still in a lot of times in the state where I just want someone to tell me what to do.
Right.
And why do we do that? It's because we doubt ourselves.
Yeah.
We doubt ourselves. We doubt our connection. We doubt our sovereignty. We doubt our worth. We doubt our value, and we don't know how powerful we really are. And that's the programming that we've been given, throughout humanity and through this lifetime, that's who we are. But getting over that and then realizing that, you are a lot more powerful than what you believe. Getting away from that doubt and fear. And once I think, oh yeah, once you realize that this stuff really works, it takes it is a slow process, because even though I've seen, dozens and dozens and dozens of times of how this really works, why do I still doubt? Why do I still doubt? I do.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I do still doubt. And why is that? Well, I'm working on it.
Yeah. And a lot of it's very unfamiliar.
Yeah.
A lot of it's very unfamiliar to our programming, our ego. And there's a big responsibility too,
Yeah.
But it's fun. It is definitely an adventure.
Yeah. An adventure. That's right. We're going to talk about that one day too. The difference between a journey and an adventure.
Yes.
Okay. So that was, I really like that point that you brought out of, from your book. Is there another point that we can talk about that was, really profound to you during your research? Or
Yes. I would say the idea of channeling and speaking to other spirits from the other realms was very, very interesting to me. Because for the classic example that was literally brought to me and that blew my mind was Jesus was on the Mount Transfiguration, and he brought only 3 disciples with him. So there's only 3 that he felt their consciousness could handle this kind of connection to a higher being, to higher beings I call it in the ether, but it's in the 5D, lots of different terminology. He brought 3 of his disciples, Peter, James, and John, and then he actually met with all 4 of them, saw an etheric vision of these men. It was Moses and Elijah. And a white light came over him. I believe he got his crystalline body at that time. Jesus did. The others did not. Their consciousness was not ready. And Jesus had a full-blown conversation with Moses and Elijah, who were ascended masters today. They are etheric beings that still assisting humanity. Elijah, or was it could be Elisha. But anyway, there's so much about incarnation and all that too in the ascended masters, but he had a full-blown conversation with them, but Peter, James, and John heard nothing. So their consciousness had not been elevated. So there was like the steps. There was the rest of the disciples, there was the 3, and then there was Jesus, and it showed the levels of consciousness of how you can actually connect to the higher realms. And it's a process of spiritual growth. It's a process of adventure. But when people ask me, no, you don't want to talk to the dead, ghosts aren't real. I was raised, ghosts aren't real. Who are you? And just what Spirit showed me was Jesus said he's not God of the dead, but of the living.
Right.
And that's when it dawned on me, Moses and Elijah are alive. You're not speaking to the dead. You're speaking to real living spirits. And then, of course, the classic example in Hebrews, it says we're surrounded by a cloud of witnesses who are here to assist us and help us and protect us.
Right.
So that was really fun to realize, that our ancestors who are of the light, we can speak to them.
Yes.
Saints and angels can actually communicate with us.
Right.
That was mind-blowing, and it obviously would shock the Christian community in its traditional sense.
It would, but I mean, it's right there in black and white. It's right there. But the problem is that it's still so shrouded in mysticism and like, oh, well, we can't really explain it. We just accept it.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound quite right to me. Why would you just accept something without question? But that is the crux of religion right there too. Yeah. Religion, don't you hear me? I just said religion. That's all.
Yeah.
A man-made institution that was designed for control of a population.
Yes. Because I believe in the history of the world, religion, the consciousness of humanity wasn't elevated, and so religion did serve a purpose.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But we're entering now into a place of spiritual sovereignty, right, where we have to start standing on our own 2 feet in our personal connection.
Yeah. 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 Well, and I think we saw you're absolutely right. I do agree with the concept of religion. Because for one thing, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have the ability to communicate across long distances, and very few people knew how to read.
And we didn't have a divine connection either.
Well, and that goes all the way back to us not having the divine connection. Right. So in practice, initially, yes, religion played a very important role, and it was a man-made institution, but it was inspired and influenced by Creator God.
Right. Hijacked.
Thank you. That's a good word. I couldn't find it, but it was hijacked then by a lot of different things. There's multiple things that it was hijacked by. Not the least of which is man's ego. That was certainly one of them, but also lower vibrational entities also hijacked it too, along with probably some off-world species. And you can go down a whole rabbit hole about why religion is what it is today compared to what it was. Take your particular religion and why is it the way it is today compared to when it was first founded, and you'll see a lot of disparities there. Right. Yeah, I mean, and that just brings up a whole bunch of other things I'd love to get into. Things like, the Gnostic Gospels, and why were they buried in an earthenware jar, located relatively close to a monastery, right around the time of the Council of Nicaea, when Constantine wanted to eradicate everything that was not the way the council had written it in the book. Anyway, okay, we're not. That's a whole thing. Woo, that's a part 2. Yeah. So Ruth, let's switch a little bit here. Now, first of all, really appreciate you sharing the points out of your book. I really enjoyed that. That was really great. Can you tell people where to find a copy if they'd like to get it and read it?
Yes, you can find it on Amazon, Spiritual Technologies and the Bible. You can just put that name in there. There'll also be a link on my website, so you can go to www.excaliburascending.square.site. You can find me there, or any of my YouTube videos. That website will be in there, and there will be a direct link and a button to click and take you right to Amazon.
Awesome. And I'll also mention too that it's available hard copy or electronic.
Paperback.
Paperback. Sorry, not hard copy.
I wish hard copy. I should get a hard copy one for it. Yeah. Actually, the synchronicity, Cory, of divine flow, if I can just share a testimony. When I got on here with you, I did not know we were going to discuss my book because I had left the topic up to you. And I had just gotten several texts. And this happens all the time when you and I get together, and I've started doing the synchronicities of things at work. But I just gotten a text that I had ordered books for some of the events we've got planned. And right before I clicked you onto the Zoom call, they had just shipped. And so that's, I believe, a sign from the universe saying, you, first of all, heard correctly. And that the message is something that people are willing to, explore.
Yeah.
Just explore.
Yeah.
'Cause it is revolutionary. It
Yeah.
is a revolutionary book, and these topics are revolutionary. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's have a little bit of fun now. And you mentioned that you're a tarot reader. Would it take you terribly long to get prepared to just do a card pull on a question that I have?
No, I have it right here. I have several cards right here that I've prepared.
How convenient.
And I actually have a brand new deck that I got
Awesome.
called Old Style Tarot by Alexander Ray. And this
Okay.
is taken after the ancient time of the ages we were talking about, when the Bible was written and created, and then, the history of religion. So
Yeah.
your question, and then I'll see what deck wants to speak to us.
Okay, so we'll make this one relatively simple. All I really want to do is see if Spirit has a particular message for our listeners, and those could be people listening right now or anytime in the future.
Okay, let's do that.
Now, do you want to go through your preparation ritual so that people see what you do?
Yes, I actually did the meditation right before I got onto here.
Okay.
And I used my little prophecy stone that we had bought at that, you know what I'm talking about, at the crystal shop. And when I use it, I get a lot of messages. But I see more. Yes, prophecy stones. This is actually from ancient Egypt, and it was some sort of pressurized. It took some sort of stone in Egypt, and it was a pressurized thing that created this, and it's nowhere else in the world. Sort of like,
yeah, it's on the border of Egypt and Libya. It's called a polymorphic stone, which means that initially it was a particular type of mineral or a combination of minerals, and over time those minerals were replaced by another mineral. So it's not the same stone that it started out as,
that's what I was trying to say.
And right. And so there was an Englishman who found during an expedition, and he was holding a piece while he was meditating and started seeing visions. And so that's why he named it Prophecy Stone.
Yes. Yes. All right. So let me go ahead and do my ritual.
Okay.
I have actually started off by, I have my stones here that I want, and I will actually clear the energy with this little miniature sound bowl that doesn't that doesn't sing. It just dings.
Yep. Oh, can't hear it, Ruth.
Okay.
It's probably the Zoom setting.
Yes.
That's okay.
But let's just go ahead and I'll just connect really quick. I request to connect to only the truth and light that's for our best and highest good. I ask and request and connect to the presence of the great I am that I am. Thank you for being with us today. Let it be. Okay, so go ahead and rephrase your question or ask it again.
Yeah, so I would just like to know, does Spirit have a message for the audience? And that could be the audience who is watching right now and anybody who clicks on this video and watches it in the future.
Okay, so I actually went to another deck. It's another deck that I got, and it's called the Angel Tarot. And this one has been speaking to me and throwing cards.
Yeah.
One day we'll explain how I see them work metaphysically. But let's just ask for a message from Spirit for everyone here. What do you want to say? Okay, let's do 3 cards, please. So I cut the deck, I shuffle, and I pull 3 cards. So we have here the 6 of Swords.
Yeah, there you go. Hold it a little bit closer to the perfect. Okay.
You see it? Okay.
Yeah, I can see it.
We have the 6 of Swords, which represent mental energy. We have the Collective card. This is the 10 of Coins. And then we have the Ace of Wands. So this is a message for the collective. The 10 represents society to me. It represents families, generations. It represents worldwide people. But then we had first coming out. This is the past, and it's talking about moving out of troubled waters. The 6 is going from the 5, which is change, trouble, shakiness, going into 6, 5, 6, numerology. And the 6 is they're leaving the storm of the past here, going into troubled waters. So there's something here that we're going into, and this is Ace of Wands. This is divine inspiration, new beginnings, and especially it represents the fire energy or the energy of divine connection. So there's definitely a clear message here that I hear the words, we're being watched. We're being watched. So that there are beings in the higher realms, such as Moses and Elijah that we spoke about, Jesus. I'm feeling that burning in my heart. Even our good ancestors, our higher selves are also truly wanting to connect with us, and that's our spirit connected to the Spirit of God. So we're actually being watched here because we're in a major turning point as people, as the collective, as humanity, where we're turning into the trouble that we have had in our mental space, our mind. The programming is coming to me, the confusion of, is this ego or is this my higher self? Or even the questions that we've had, like, how do I do it right? We're moving into an energy as a people where we begin aligning with our divinity, our higher self, the energy of fire, spirit, pure spirit. So it's definitely a message. We're being supported and guided by those that are in the etheric realm to move from this transition of mental confusion and programming into divine inner light. That's the message I'm receiving today.
Very cool. Very cool.
I can finish here with the message from the oracle cards. These are just little individual messages of encouragement. And this one I wait to see if it flies out or what comes up here. Okay, so we have one right here. Stay present. That's where life happens.
Mm-hmm.
So just being yourself, staying connected to the present moment.
Yeah.
So that's all I have.
Awesome. Awesome. Wow. That's profound. Because that message is going to resonate with the current audience as well as anybody who watches this video in the anytime in the future, I think, because it's a continual process of moving forward.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, keep going. I hear the words keep going. If one practice didn't work for you, go to the next one. Don't be afraid to leave it behind if it's not working. Leaving it behind, leaving things behind is okay. One ritual to the next, or one prayer, one affirmation to the next. Just keep going.
Yes. Perfect.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
This was great.
All right. Yeah, this has been really good, and we're going to have to cut it now because my battery is just about to die. So this was perfect timing. Now the only thing we really need to do is develop a little jingle that we have played at the front of the back of the video, and come up with a catchy little slogan. And I'd love to hear from other people. So this is our first podcast. You kind of get the idea of where we're going. Our motto is say it, Ruth.
Connecting to our inner light.
Connecting to our inner light.
It's morphed. Yeah. We've morphed it over several times.
Yeah, that's like, oh crap, what was it? That's right. Yeah, connecting to our inner light. So I'd love to hear and see if anyone has any suggestions on what we could use as a tagline, or how did this podcast resonate with you?
Yes.
And what would really be really cool is to hear from the audience what kind of subjects they'd like to hear us discuss. And I'd love to do some research into some things and then come back and be able to chat about that kind of stuff. But
agreed.
Yeah, so thank you, Ruth, for sharing your book and your tarot skills with us. Really appreciate that. And wanted to thank everybody who is or has watched the video. Really appreciate you. And Ruth, anything?
I just want to say you were an amazing host, and I look forward to doing lots more with you. So yes, and to all the audience, we love you, and we are love, we are light. Together in light, we will do this adventure.
All right. Well, since we don't have a jingle, thank you for watching the Ruth and Cory Show.
Bye.